The eviction notice arrived on a Friday afternoon, taped to the front door of the house I had lived in for 12 years. The house I had helped pay for, helped renovate, helped turn into a home. The house where I had raised our children, celebrated our anniversaries, nursed my husband through the flu, and my mother-in-law through her endless, manufactured crises. The paper was official, stamped with the seal of the county court, signed by a judge I had never met, and it said in cold legal language that I had 30 days to vacate the premises, to pack up my life, to disappear, to leave behind everything I had built, everything I had sacrificed, everything I had loved. My name is Naomi Grace Caldwell. I'm 38 years old, and my husband, Daniel, chose his mother over me, not in a small way, not in a way that could be dismissed as a disagreement or a misunderstanding, but in a way that was calculated, cruel, and designed to leave me with nothing. He had spent months planning his escape, hiding assets, consulting lawyers, and preparing to abandon me, and when I confronted him, when I asked him why he was doing this, when I begged him to remember the vows we had made, he looked me in the eye and said, "My mother was there before you, and she'll be there after you. You're just a chapter. She's the whole book." But what Daniel didn't know, what his mother didn't know, what none of them could have anticipated, was that I had been preparing too, not for divorce, not for betrayal, but for the possibility that the man I had married was not the man I thought he was, and that one day I might need to protect myself, my children, and my future from the people who were supposed to love me most. Before I tell you what happened next, before I tell you about the documents I had hidden away, about the phone call that changed everything, about the moment my husband's smile turned to panic, I need you to do something. Hit like if you've ever been underestimated, subscribe if you believe that karma always comes around, and drop a comment with your location and local time. I want to know where the fighters are watching from tonight. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the marriage that started with promises and ended with lies, to the mother-in-law who never accepted me, to the husband who chose her over me, again and again, until there was nothing left to choose. I met Daniel in college. He was charming, handsome, the kind of man who could make you feel like the only person in the room, and I fell for him, hard, the way young women fall when they haven't yet learned that charm is not character, that charisma is not kindness, that a man who loves his mother too much may not have room in his heart for anyone else. His mother, Margaret, was a widow. His father had died when Daniel was a teenager, and she had raised him alone, pouring all of her love, her attention, her expectations into him, and when I came along, she saw me not as a daughter-in-law, but as a rival, a threat, a woman who was trying to take her son away from her. "You're taking him away from me, Naomi. You're stealing him. He was mine first, and he'll always be mine." "I'm not trying to take him away, Margaret. I love him, and I want to build a life with him. That doesn't mean I'm taking him away from you. You don't understand. You'll never understand. The bond between a mother and her son, it's sacred, it's unbreakable, and you're trying to break it." "I'm not trying to break anything. I'm trying to build something, a family, a future, a home, and I want you to be part of that, but not if you're going to treat me like an enemy." She never stopped treating me like an enemy. Not during our engagement, not during our marriage, not during the birth of our children, not during the years when I tried, again and again, to win her approval, to earn her love, to prove that I was worthy of her son. The early years of our marriage were happy, or at least they seemed happy. Daniel was attentive, affectionate, present. He helped with the children, supported my career, and stood by me during the inevitable conflicts with his mother. But over time, Margaret's influence grew. Her manipulations became more sophisticated, her criticisms more pointed, and Daniel began to change, to withdraw, to choose her over me. "Daniel, your mother called me a gold digger again. She said I only married you for your money. She said I'm going to take half of everything you have." "She doesn't mean it, Naomi. She's just insecure. She's afraid of losing me. You have to be patient with her." "I've been patient for 10 years, Daniel. 10 years of her insults, her accusations, her attempts to undermine our marriage, and you've never once stood up to her. Never once told her to stop. Never once chosen me over her." "She's my mother, Naomi. I can't just cut her out of my life. I can't just abandon her." "I'm not asking you to abandon her. I'm asking you to set boundaries, to defend me, to be my husband, not her son, not when she's attacking me, not when she's trying to destroy our marriage." He didn't answer, didn't defend me, didn't set boundaries. He just walked away, the way he always walked away, leaving me alone to fight a battle I couldn't win. The betrayal began long before the eviction notice, long before I knew that Daniel was planning to leave me. It started with small things, missing documents, unexplained withdrawals, passwords that had been changed without my knowledge. I noticed, but I didn't act, didn't want to believe that the man I loved was capable of such deception, didn't want to admit that my marriage was failing, that my husband was becoming a stranger. Daniel, why did you change the password on our joint account? Why didn't you tell me? It's nothing, Naomi, just a security precaution. The bank recommended it. I was going to tell you. I just forgot. You forgot. You forgot to tell me that you locked me out of our bank account. You forgot to tell me that you've been moving money around. You forgot to tell me that you're preparing to leave me. That's not true, Naomi. I'm not preparing to leave you. I love you. I would never do that to you. Then show me the accounts, show me the statements, show me that there's nothing to worry about. He refused, of course, made excuses, changed the subject, left the room, and I knew, in that moment, that my marriage was over, that the man I had loved for 12 years was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I started preparing, quietly, secretly. The way he was preparing, I hired a forensic accountant to trace the missing funds, a private investigator to document his activities, and a lawyer to advise me on my rights. I didn't tell Daniel, didn't confront him, didn't give him any indication that I knew what he was planning. I just waited, watched, and gathered evidence. The forensic accountant discovered that Daniel had been hiding assets for years, moving money into accounts I didn't know existed, transferring property into his mother's name, and preparing to leave me with nothing. The private investigator documented his meetings with lawyers, his consultations with financial advisors, his late-night phone calls with his mother, during which they planned my downfall. She has no idea, Mom. She thinks everything is fine. She thinks I'm still the same loving husband I've always been. Good, keep it that way. Don't let her suspect anything. And when the time comes, we'll take everything, the house, the cars, the kids, everything. Are you sure about this, Mom? Are you sure this is the right thing to do? It's the only thing to do. Daniel, she's not good enough for you. She never was, and it's time to get rid of her, once and for all. I listened to the recordings, read the transcripts, studied the evidence, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not sadness, not betrayal, but a cold, hard determination to survive, to fight back, to prove that I was not the victim they thought I was. The eviction notice was the final straw, the moment when Daniel's plan became clear, when I realized that he wasn't just leaving me, he was trying to destroy me, to take everything I had, to leave me homeless, penniless, and alone. But he didn't know about the documents I had hidden, the evidence I had gathered, the lawyer I had hired, and when he handed me the notice, when he stood there, smug and self-satisfied, waiting for me to beg, to plead, to cry, I did something he didn't expect. I smiled. You think this is funny, Naomi? You think this is a joke? No, Daniel, I don't think this is a joke. I think this is the beginning of the end. Not for me, but for you. What are you talking about? What are you planning? I'm not planning anything, Daniel. I've already planned, I've already prepared, I've already gathered evidence that will destroy you in court. Evidence that will prove you've been hiding assets, conspiring with your mother, and trying to leave me homeless. You thought you were being clever, but you were sloppy, and I have everything. His face went pale, his hands started shaking, his confidence crumbled. You're bluffing, Naomi. You don't have anything. You're just trying to scare me. Am I? Daniel, am I bluffing? Do you want to find out in court? Do you want to explain to the judge why you've been moving money into offshore accounts? Why you transferred the deed to the house into your mother's name? Why you've been meeting with divorce lawyers behind my back for months? I don't think you want that. I don't think you want any of that to come out. He stared at me, his mouth open, his eyes wide, his face pale, and I smiled again. The same smile. The smile of a woman who had been underestimated, dismissed, betrayed, and was finally, after all these years, ready to fight back. The days after I served Daniel with my counter-evidence were tense, filled with a silence that was louder than any argument we had ever had. He moved into the guest bedroom, stopped eating at the family table, stopped speaking to me unless absolutely necessary, and I watched him, this man I had loved for 12 years, become a stranger, a ghost, a reminder of everything I had lost and everything I was about to gain. My children, ages 10 and 8, sensed that something was wrong. They were perceptive, the way children are when they've grown up in a house filled with tension and unspoken resentments. They asked questions I couldn't answer, looked at me with eyes that were too old, too knowing, too sad. Is Daddy moving out, Mommy? Is he leaving us? I don't know, sweetheart, I hope not. But whatever happens, you need to know that Daddy and I both love you, and that will never change, no matter what. Then why are you fighting? Why are you so sad? Why don't you talk to each other anymore? Sometimes grown-ups have problems that they can't solve, problems that make it hard for them to be together, but that doesn't mean they stop loving their children, and it doesn't mean that their children stop being loved. They didn't understand, couldn't understand, the way children can't understand the complexities of adult relationships, the betrayals, the lies, the slow, painful unraveling of a marriage that had once seemed indestructible. My lawyer, a woman named Margaret, no relation to my mother-in-law, thank God, was a shark, the kind of lawyer who made other lawyers nervous, who knew the judges, knew the clerks, knew the weaknesses in the system. She had reviewed my evidence, listened to my story, and was confident that I would not only keep the house but also receive a substantial settlement. Your husband has been hiding assets for years, Naomi, not just from you, but from the IRS, from his business partners, from everyone. He's made some serious mistakes, and we're going to use those mistakes to our advantage. What about his mother? What about the property he transferred to her? We'll go after that too. We'll argue that the transfer was fraudulent, that it was done to avoid division of marital assets, and we'll ask the court to set it aside. What if she claims that she paid for it, that it was a gift, that it had nothing to do with our divorce? She can claim whatever she wants, but we have evidence that the transfer happened after you filed for divorce, and that your husband made the transfer without your knowledge or consent. That's enough to raise a presumption of fraud. I felt a flicker of hope, the first I had felt in months, the hope that I might actually win, that I might actually come out of this disaster with something, that I might actually be able to rebuild my life, my future, my sense of self. Daniel's mother, Margaret, called me the next day, her voice dripping with false sympathy, her words designed to wound. Naomi, I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry. I know this must be hard for you, but you have to understand, Daniel is my son, and I have to support him, no matter what. I understand, Margaret. I've always understood. You've made it clear from the beginning that I was never good enough for him, that I never would be, that you would always come first. You're being dramatic, Naomi. I've always tried to be kind to you, to welcome you into our family, but you've made it difficult, with your jealousy, your insecurity, your constant need for attention. My jealousy, my insecurity, my constant need for attention. Margaret, I've spent 12 years trying to earn your approval, trying to be the daughter-in-law you wanted, trying to prove that I was worthy of your son, and you've spent 12 years undermining me, criticizing me, and trying to destroy my marriage. I'm not trying to destroy your marriage, Naomi. I'm trying to protect my son from you, from your selfishness, from your greed. My greed, Margaret, your son has been hiding assets for years, moving money into offshore accounts, transferring property into your name, and you want to talk to me about greed? You want to lecture me about greed after everything you've done? She hung up, the first time she had ever hung up on me, and I felt a small, petty satisfaction, the satisfaction of having finally, after 12 years, stood up to her, of having finally, after 12 years, told her the truth. The divorce proceedings moved quickly, faster than I had expected. Daniel's lawyers tried to delay, to obstruct, to wear me down, but Margaret Chin was relentless, filing motions, demanding discovery, refusing to back down. She was expensive, but worth every penny, and I was determined to see this through, no matter the cost. The forensic accountant uncovered more assets, hidden accounts in the Cayman Islands, a vacation home in Florida that Daniel had bought with his mother, a collection of classic cars that he had stored in a warehouse outside the city. The total value was staggering, millions of dollars that he had tried to hide, that he had tried to keep from me, that he had tried to use to destroy me. Your husband is in serious trouble, Naomi, not just with the divorce court, but with the IRS, the SEC, and possibly the FBI. He's been hiding assets for years, and he's made some enemies along the way. What kind of enemies? Business partners who feel cheated, investors who lost money, banks that are owed millions. He's been living a lie, Naomi, and it's all about to come crashing down. I should have felt satisfied, should have felt vindicated, should have felt that justice was being served, but all I felt was a dull, aching sadness, a sense of loss, of waste, of tragedy. My husband had thrown away his life, his marriage, his future for money, for status, for the approval of a mother who would never be satisfied. Daniel confronted me in the kitchen, a few days later, his face red, his eyes wild, his voice shaking. "You're destroying me, Naomi. You're destroying everything I've built, everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed." "I'm not destroying you, Daniel. You're destroying yourself. You made choices, you committed crimes, you betrayed our marriage, and now you have to face the consequences. You could have walked away, you could have taken the house, taken the money, taken whatever you wanted and left quietly, but you had to be vindictive, you had to be cruel, you had to destroy me." "I'm not being vindictive, Daniel. I'm being honest, I'm telling the truth, and the truth is that you've been lying to me for years, hiding assets, conspiring with your mother, planning to leave me with nothing, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." "What do you want, Naomi? What do you want from me?" "I want what's fair, Daniel. I want what's mine. I want what I'm entitled to under the law, and I want you to be held accountable for what you've done. And if I refuse, if I fight you every step of the way, if I make this as hard and as painful as possible, then you'll lose, Daniel. You'll lose everything, the house, the money, the cars, your reputation, your freedom, everything, and I'll be there, watching, smiling, the way I smiled when you handed me that eviction notice." He walked away, defeated, his shoulders slumped, his head bowed, his dreams of destroying me shattered. I watched him go, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not satisfaction, not relief, just a quiet, exhausted emptiness, the same emptiness I had felt when I first realized that my marriage was over, that the man I loved was gone, that I was alone. The children were in bed, the house was quiet, and I sat in the living room, staring at the wall, thinking about the future, about the years ahead, about the life I would have to build on my own. I was scared, of course, scared of being alone, scared of failing, scared of losing everything, but I was also determined to survive, to thrive, to prove that I was not the victim they thought I was. "You're stronger than you know, Naomi, stronger than you've ever been, and you're going to get through this no matter what." I didn't know if I believed that, didn't know if I had the strength, the courage, the resilience to rebuild my life from the ashes of my marriage, but I knew that I had to try, that I couldn't give up, that I couldn't let Daniel and his mother win. The first court date was scheduled for a Monday, the kind of Monday that feels like a death sentence, the kind of Monday that makes you wish you could crawl back into bed and never come out. I dressed carefully, a black dress that made me feel powerful, a string of pearls that my grandmother had left me, a pair of heels that clicked on the marble floor like gunshots. I wanted to look confident, even if I didn't feel it, wanted to look like a woman who was not afraid, even though I was terrified. Margaret Chen met me outside the courtroom, her briefcase heavy with documents, her expression grim but determined. She had been doing this for 30 years, had seen every kind of divorce, every kind of betrayal, every kind of cruelty, and she was not intimidated by Daniel's lawyers or his mother's wealth. "You look good, Naomi. You look like a woman who's ready to fight." "I don't feel ready, Margaret. I feel like I'm about to throw up." "That's normal. It's the adrenaline, it's your body preparing for battle. Use it, channel it, don't let it control you." "What if I lose? What if the judge doesn't believe me? What if Daniel's lawyers are better than we think?" "Then we appeal, we fight. We keep going until we win, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the evidence is on our side, and the truth is on our side, and the truth, no matter how well it's hidden, always comes out." Daniel was already inside, sitting at the defense table, his mother beside him, his lawyers flanking them like bodyguards. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, more tired. The stress of the past months had aged him, had worn him down, had stripped away the charm and confidence that had once made him so attractive. Margaret was dressed in a navy blue suit, her hair perfectly coiffed, her jewelry expensive and understated. She looked like a woman who had never struggled, never sacrificed, never known what it was like to be afraid. But I knew the truth. I knew that she was a viper, a manipulator, a woman who had spent her life controlling her son and destroying anyone who threatened her power. "All rise," the Honorable Judge Patricia Okonkwo presiding. The judge was a woman in her late 50s, with kind eyes and a firm voice. She had been on the bench for 20 years, had seen every kind of case, every kind of lie, every kind of betrayal, and she was not easily impressed or intimidated. This is a case regarding the dissolution of the marriage of Naomi Grace Caldwell and Daniel James Caldwell. The plaintiff, Naomi Caldwell, is seeking a fair division of marital assets as well as custody of the minor children. The defendant, Daniel Caldwell, has contested the plaintiff's claims and has filed a counterpetition seeking full custody and an unequal division of assets. How does the plaintiff plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. I am seeking a fair and equitable division of the assets that Daniel has been hiding for years, and I am seeking full custody of our children, who have been living with me since Daniel moved out of the family home. How does the defendant plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. I have not been hiding assets, and I am seeking full custody of our children because I believe that their mother is unstable and unfit to care for them. The words hit me like stones, each one sharp, each one aimed, each one designed to wound. He was trying to take my children, trying to paint me as an unfit mother, trying to destroy the one thing that mattered most to me. The first day was brutal. Daniel's lawyers called witness after witness, friends, neighbors, colleagues, who testified that I was emotionally unstable, that I had anger issues, that I had threatened Daniel and his mother. It was all lies, of course, but they were persuasive lies, delivered by people who seemed credible, people who had been coached, rehearsed, prepared. Miss Caldwell, is it true that you threatened to harm your mother-in-law, that you said you would make her pay for interfering in your marriage? That's not true. I never threatened anyone. I was frustrated, I was hurt, but I never threatened violence, and I never would. Is it true that you've been seeing a therapist, that you've been diagnosed with depression, that you're taking medication for anxiety? Yes, I've been seeing a therapist. Yes, I've been diagnosed with depression. Yes, I'm taking medication for anxiety, but that doesn't make me unstable, and it doesn't make me an unfit mother. Your husband says that you've been acting erratically, that you've been volatile, that you've been making false accusations against him and his mother. Is that true? No, it's not true. I've been reacting to his betrayal, his lies, his attempts to destroy me. That's not erratic. That's human. Margaret Chun objected constantly, but the judge overruled many of her objections, allowing Daniel's lawyers to continue their assault, their character assassination, their attempt to paint me as the villain, the unstable one, the unfit mother. The second day was my turn. My lawyers called my witnesses, the forensic accountant, the private investigator, the therapist who had been treating me for months. Each of them testified that Daniel had been hiding assets, that he had been conspiring with his mother, that I was not unstable, not unfit, not the monster he was trying to paint. Ms. Chun, can you tell the court what you discovered during your investigation of Mr. Caldwell's finances? Certainly, I discovered that Mr. Caldwell has been hiding assets for years, moving money into offshore accounts, transferring property into his mother's name, and concealing income from the IRS. The total value of the hidden assets is approximately $3 million. The courtroom gasped. Daniel's face went pale. His mother's eyes widened. The judge leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Mr. Caldwell, is this true? Have you been hiding assets from your wife and from the IRS? I don't know what she's talking about, Your Honor. It's a misunderstanding. I can explain. You'll have your chance, Mr. Caldwell. But for now, I want to hear what else Ms. Chin has to say. Margaret Chin continued, presenting evidence, bank records, wire transfers, emails, recorded phone calls, all of it pointing to Daniel's guilt, all of it painting a picture of a man who had been lying, cheating, and stealing for years. Daniel's mother took the stand on the third day, her voice shaking, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. She was not used to being questioned, not used to being challenged, not used to being held accountable for her actions. Mrs. Caldwell, did you know that your son was hiding assets from his wife? I don't know anything about that. I'm just his mother. I don't get involved in his business affairs. But you do get involved, don't you, Mrs. Caldwell? You're involved in everything. You've been involved in your son's marriage from the beginning, undermining his wife, criticizing her, trying to destroy their relationship. That's not true. I've always tried to be supportive. I've always tried to help. But Naomi was never satisfied. She was always jealous, always insecure, always accusing me of things I didn't do. Is it true that your son transferred a vacation home in Florida into your name, a property worth over $800,000? He gave it to me as a gift. It was his to give, and I didn't ask any questions. Did you know that the transfer happened after your son's wife filed for divorce, and that he made the transfer without her knowledge or consent? I don't know anything about that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm just a mother who loves her son. The judge listened, her expression unreadable, her pen moving across the page, her mind working through the evidence, the testimony, the lies. I sat in the front row, watching my mother-in-law's facade crumble, watching her confidence fade, watching her realize that she was not as clever, not as powerful, not as untouchable as she had always believed. The fourth day of the trial was the day everything changed, the day when the walls that Daniel and his mother had built came crashing down, the day when the truth finally, mercifully, emerged from the shadows where they had tried so hard to bury it. Margaretchen called her final witness, a woman I had never met, a woman whose name I had never heard, a woman who would change the course of the trial and my life forever. Her name was Rebecca, and she had been Daniel's assistant at his company for 7 years. She had seen everything, the late nights, the secret meetings, the phone calls with his mother, the emails, the text messages, the lies. She had been fired 6 months ago, when Daniel discovered that she had been keeping records, documenting his schemes, preparing to testify against him. Miss Thompson, can you tell the court what you witnessed during your time as Mr. Caldwell's assistant? I witnessed a lot of things, Ms. Chun, things that I didn't understand at first, things that I tried to ignore, things that I told myself were none of my business. But you kept records, didn't you? You kept copies of emails, text messages, financial documents. Why? Because I knew that what he was doing was wrong, and I knew that someday someone might need to know the truth, and I wanted to be able to help. And what did Mr. Caldwell do that was wrong? He was hiding money from his wife, from the IRS, from his business partners. He was moving funds into offshore accounts, transferring property into his mother's name, and he was planning to leave his wife with nothing. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, gasps, murmurs. Daniel's face was ashen. His hands were shaking. His eyes were darting around the room, looking for an escape, an exit, a way out. His mother sat beside him, her face frozen, her eyes wide, her mouth open. Miss Thompson, do you have any evidence to support these claims? I do, Miss Chun. I have emails, text messages, bank records, and recordings of phone calls between Mr. Caldwell and his mother, discussing their plans to hide assets and defraud his wife. She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, handed it to the bailiff, who handed it to the judge, who inserted it into her laptop and began to review the files, her expression unreadable, her eyes moving across the screen, her lips pressed together in a thin line. Daniel's lawyer, Bradford Stone, objected, his voice shrill, desperate, pleading. Your Honor, this evidence was not disclosed during discovery. It's a surprise. It's prejudicial. It's not admissible. Miss Chun, why was this evidence not disclosed earlier? Because Miss Thompson came forward only yesterday, Your Honor. She was afraid of retaliation, afraid of losing her job, afraid of Mr. Caldwell, but she found the courage to come forward, and we are presenting this evidence as soon as it became available. I'll allow it, Mr. Stone, but I will give you time to review the evidence and prepare your cross-examination. We'll recess until tomorrow morning. She banged her gavel, and the courtroom emptied, reporters rushing for the exits, spectators buzzing with excitement. Daniel's lawyers huddled in a corner, whispering furiously, and Daniel sat at the defense table, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking, his dreams of destroying me crumbling to dust. Margaretchen approached me, her expression triumphant, her voice low. We've got him, Naomi, he's finished. He can't recover from this. What about his mother? What about the property she took? We'll go after her too. We'll argue that she was complicit in the fraud, that she knew what Daniel was doing, that she helped him hide assets, and we'll ask the court to hold her accountable. What if she claims she didn't know? What if she says that Daniel lied to her, that she was just an innocent bystander? She can claim whatever she wants, but we have evidence that she was involved, that she participated, that she benefited from the fraud, and the jury will see through her lies. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. reporters from every major news outlet, spectators who had been following the case for weeks, curious strangers who wanted to see the downfall of a wealthy businessman. Daniel's mother was not there. She had been admitted to the hospital the night before, claiming chest pains, claiming stress, claiming that she couldn't face the humiliation of being exposed. The judge was not sympathetic. Mrs. Caldwell has chosen not to be present for the remainder of the trial. That is her right, but the court will proceed without her, and her absence will be noted by the jury. Daniel's lawyer cross-examined Rebecca Thompson for hours, trying to discredit her, to poke holes in her testimony, to suggest that she was bitter, jealous, vindictive, but she held firm, her voice steady, her eyes clear, her testimony unshaken. Miss Thompson, isn't it true that you were fired from Mr. Caldwell's company for poor performance, that you were angry, that you wanted revenge? I was fired, yes, but not for poor performance. I was fired because I knew too much, because I had evidence of his crimes, because he was afraid that I would expose him. And you expect this court to believe that you kept records for 7 years, just in case you might need them someday. That's a little hard to believe, isn't it? I kept records because I knew that what he was doing was wrong, and I knew that someday someone might need to know the truth, and I wanted to be able to help. I'm not bitter, I'm not vindictive, I'm just a person who believes that the truth matters. The jury deliberated for 2 days, 2 days of waiting, of pacing, of praying. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think about anything except the verdict. Margaret Chin stayed with me, held my hand, reminded me to breathe, told me that whatever happened, I would survive. You've been through worse, Naomi. You've survived betrayal. You've survived loss. You've survived the realization that the people you loved were not who you thought they were. You can survive this too. I don't know if I can, Margaret. I don't know if I have anything left. I feel empty, hollow, like there's nothing inside me anymore. That's not emptiness, Naomi. That's space. Space for new things, new people, new love, new joy. You've spent so long being filled with their pain, their anger, their lies, and now, finally, there's room for something else, something better, something that is yours. On the 3rd day, the jury returned with a verdict. The courtroom was packed. The tension was thick. Daniel sat at the defense table, his face pale, his eyes hollow, his lawyers beside him. Looking defeated, I sat in the front row, next to Margaret Chin, my heart pounding, my breath shallow, my hands shaking. We, the jury, in the case of Caldwell versus Caldwell, find the defendant, Daniel Caldwell, guilty of hiding assets, conspiring to defraud his wife, and attempting to alienate her from her children. We award the plaintiff, Naomi Caldwell, full custody of the minor children, the marital home, and 50% of all assets, including those that were hidden, and we order the defendant to pay all legal fees and court costs. Daniel's face crumbled, his hands gripping the edge of the table, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. His lawyers were silent, defeated, their arguments rejected, their case destroyed. His mother was not there to comfort him, not there to hold his hand, not there to share his burden. Mr. Caldwell, you have been found guilty of serious misconduct, and I am ordering you to comply with the jury's verdict immediately. If you fail to do so, you'll be held in contempt of court and subject to further penalties. Your Honor, please, I need more time. I need to gather more evidence. You've had plenty of time, Mr. Caldwell, and you've presented plenty of evidence. But the evidence doesn't support your claims. The jury has spoken, and this court will enforce their verdict. This case is closed. Daniel approached me outside the courthouse, his face haggard, his eyes red, his voice hoarse. You've won, Naomi, you've won. You have everything, the house, the kids, the money, everything, and I have nothing, nothing at all. You have yourself, Daniel. You have your health, your freedom, your chance to start over, to be better, to do better, and that's more than a lot of people have. I don't know how to start over, Naomi. I don't know how to be better. I don't know how to do anything except fail and disappoint and destroy. Then learn, Daniel, learn how to be better. Learn how to do better. Learn how to be the person your children need you to be. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, but it's possible, and I'll help you, not with money, not with the house, but with love, with support, with the knowledge that you're not alone. He looked at me, tears streaming down his face, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw the man I had married, the man I had loved, the man who had once promised to cherish me forever. I'm sorry, Naomi. I'm so sorry for everything, for the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, for trying to take the house, for trying to take the kids, for trying to destroy you. I'm sorry, and I hope that someday you can forgive me. I forgive you, Daniel. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let go, because I need to heal, because I need to be free, and I can't be free if I'm still carrying the weight of your mistakes. The months after the trial were strange, disorienting, like waking from a dream that had lasted my entire life, not knowing what was real and what had been imagined, not knowing who I was without the weight of my husband's betrayal pressing down on me, not knowing how to be free after so many years of being trapped in a marriage that had become a prison. The house was mine now, legally, finally, irrevocably mine, but it felt empty, hollow. The walls still held the echoes of our arguments. The floor still remembered his footsteps. The kitchen still smelled like the meals we had cooked together, meals that had been shared in silence, in resentment, in the slow, painful death of love. I threw myself into the work of rebuilding, not just the house, but my life, my sense of self, my hope for the future. I painted the living room a soft blue, the color of the sky on a clear day. I rearranged the furniture, bought new sheets, new towels, new dishes, anything to erase the memory of him, to make the space mine, to create a home where I could heal. The children adjusted, slowly, painfully, the way children do when their world has been turned upside down. They missed their father, even though they knew what he had done, even though they had heard the testimony, seen the evidence, understood the truth. Love is not rational, not logical, not subject to the same rules as the courtroom, and they loved him, despite everything, the way children love their parents, unconditionally, irrevocably, forever. Is Daddy coming to visit us, Mommy? Is he going to come home? Daddy is living somewhere else now, sweetheart, but he loves you, and he'll visit you as often as he can. Why can't he come home? Why can't we be a family again? Sometimes grown-ups can't live together anymore. Even if they love each other, even if they want to, it's not your fault, and it's not Daddy's fault. It's just the way things are. They didn't understand, couldn't understand. The way children can't understand the complexities of adult relationships, the betrayals, the lies, the slow, painful unraveling of a marriage that had once seemed indestructible. Daniel went to therapy, not because he wanted to, but because the judge had ordered it as a condition of his probation. He was angry, resentful, convinced that he was the victim, that I had destroyed his life, that the world was unfair. But over time, as the weeks turned into months, something shifted, something softened, something that looked like the beginning of understanding. I'm not the same person I was, Naomi. I know you don't believe me. I know you have no reason to, but I'm trying. I'm really trying to be better, to do better, to be the person I should have been all along. I want to believe you, Daniel. I want to believe that people can change, that people can grow, that people can become better than they were, but I've been burned before, and I'm not willing to trust you again. Not yet, not until you've proven that you're different. How can I prove it? What can I do to show you that I've changed? You can start by being honest, by taking responsibility for your choices, by apologizing to the children, by being present, by being patient, by being the father they deserve, even if you can't be the husband I deserved. He nodded, his eyes wet, his voice thick with emotion. I'll try, Naomi. I'll try. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be quick, but I'll try. That's all I ask, Daniel. That's all I've ever asked. His mother, Margaret, did not change, could not change, would not change. She blamed me for everything, for the divorce, for the trial, for the loss of her son, for the loss of her grandchildren. She wrote letters, sent emails, left voicemails, all of them filled with venom, all of them filled with lies, all of them filled with the same manipulative cruelty that had defined her for decades. I stopped reading them, stopped listening, stopped responding. I blocked her number, blocked her email, blocked her from my life. The way you block out a poison, the way you cut out a cancer, the way you protect yourself from someone who has proven, again and again, that they are not capable of change. You can't just ignore her, Naomi. She's your children's grandmother. She has a right to see them. She lost that right when she tried to destroy me, when she conspired with Daniel to leave me homeless, when she showed the court that she cares more about money than about her grandchildren. I'm not keeping the children from her, Daniel. I'm protecting them from her, and there's a difference. He didn't argue, couldn't argue, didn't have the strength or the will to defend the woman who had enabled his addiction, who had encouraged his betrayal, who had helped him destroy our marriage. He had finally, after all these years, begun to see her for who she really was, and it was a painful, necessary, liberating realization. The years passed slowly, then quickly, the way time does when you're paying attention and not paying attention, when you're busy living and not just surviving. My children grew, from children to teenagers, from teenagers to young adults. They graduated from high school, went to college, fell in love, had their hearts broken, and came home to me, again and again, knowing that I would always be there, that I would always love them, that I would never betray them the way their father had betrayed me. Daniel and I developed a relationship, not the one we had lost, not the one we had hoped for, but a new one, different, fragile, uncertain, but real. We talked about the children, about their futures, about their struggles, about their dreams. We didn't talk about the past, didn't rehash old arguments, didn't assign blame. We just were two people who had once loved each other, who had hurt each other, who had learned to coexist for the sake of the children they both adored. Do you ever regret it, Naomi? Do you ever regret marrying me, staying with me, fighting for me? I regret the lies. I regret the pain. I regret the years we wasted. But I don't regret the children. I don't regret the love I felt. I don't regret the person I've become. And I don't regret that I found the strength to leave, to fight, to win. I'm proud of you, Naomi. I'm proud of the woman you've become, the mother you are, the life you've built. Thank you, Daniel. That means a lot coming from you. I never remarried, not because I didn't have opportunities, not because I didn't want to, but because I had learned that marriage was not a solution, was not a guarantee, was not the fairy tale I had once believed. I had learned that I was enough, that I didn't need a partner to complete me, that I could be happy, fulfilled, content on my own. I started a small business, a consulting firm that helped women who were going through divorces, who were facing the same challenges I had faced, who needed someone to believe in them, to fight for them, to remind them that they were not alone. I told them my story, not all of it, not the darkest parts, but enough to let them know that I understood, that I had been there, that survival was possible. How did you do it, Naomi? How did you survive? How did you keep going when everything was falling apart? I had people who believed in me, people who supported me, people who refused to let me fail, my lawyer, my friends, my children. They were my anchors, my lifelines, my reasons to keep fighting. What about your ex-husband? What about his mother? What about the people who hurt you? How did you deal with them? I let them go. I stopped carrying their weight. I stopped letting their cruelty define me. I forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. My ex-mother-in-law, Margaret, died 5 years after the trial, alone, in a nursing home, her money gone, her influence faded, her children estranged, her grandchildren refusing to visit. I didn't go to the funeral, couldn't bring myself to stand over her grave, to pretend that I was grieving the loss of a woman who had caused me so much pain. I mourned her in my own way, in my own time, in the privacy of my own heart. Daniel went. Of course, he was her son, and despite everything, he loved her. The way children love their parents, even when their parents are flawed, even when their parents are cruel, even when their parents have made terrible mistakes. She asked about you before she died. She asked about the children. She wanted to see them, to apologize, to make things right. It was too late for apologies, Daniel, too late for making things right. She had years to change, years to grow, years to become the person she should have been, and she chose not to. I know, but she was my mother and I loved her, and I'm going to miss her. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for the pain she caused you. I'm sorry that you'll never have the mother you deserved. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for saying that. Here's what I want you to know. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, the one who was betrayed, the one who was underestimated, the one who was told you weren't enough, the one who was threatened with homelessness by the person who was supposed to love you, hear me. You are not what they said you were. You are not the victim, the failure, the lost cause. You are the one who survived, the one who kept going, the one who found a way to fight back, not because you had money, not because you had power, but because you had the truth. And the truth, no matter how well it's hidden, no matter how long it's buried, always, eventually, comes to light. And survival is not pretty, it's not clean, It's not a movie where the credits roll and everyone lives happily ever after. Survival is messy. It's courtrooms and lawyers and sleepless nights. It's years of therapy and healing and learning to trust again. It's forgiving yourself for not being perfect, for not being strong enough, for not being fast enough, for not being enough. It's planting flowers in a garden and waiting for them to bloom. It's sitting on a porch and watching the sunset and letting go of the weight you've been carrying your whole life. But survival is also yours. No one can take it from you. Not the husband who tried to destroy you, not the mother-in-law who conspired against you, not the family who didn't see you. You survived, and that is the only victory that matters. I smiled when he handed me the eviction notice, not because I was happy, not because I was cruel, but because I knew something he didn't. I knew that I had prepared, that I had evidence, that I had a lawyer, that I had the truth, and that the truth, no matter how long it took, would set me free. My name is Naomi Caldwell. I'm 45 years old. I live in the house I fought for, the home I protected, the place where my children grew up and where my grandchildren now visit. I have a business that helps women who have been betrayed, a garden full of flowers, and a life that is mine. Not perfect, not easy, but mine. The eviction notice is framed on my wall, a reminder of where I've been, what I've survived, and who I've become. I look at it sometimes when I need to remember that I am strong, that I am capable, that I am enough, and I smile, the same smile, the smile of a woman who was underestimated and proved everyone wrong. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to love you, if you've ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours, if you've ever had to rebuild your life from nothing, leave a comment. Tell me, what did you survive? Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.